Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Administration and Finance Committee meeting on October the 10th, 2023. I will now call on Will Short, the Regional Clerk, to conduct the roll call. Will.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Chair Redman.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Councillor Deutschman. Councillor Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Chair Harris.
Present.
Councillor Hunink.
Present.
Councillor James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett.
Present.
Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Solonen.
Present.
Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Verbanovic.
Present.
Councillor Williams.
Present.
And Councillor Wolf.
Present.
Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you. I would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gathered today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. I would like to start on a vote to reconvene to open session. Can I have a mover and a seconder to do so, please? Moved by Councillor Fox and seconded by Councillor James. Please use your e-scribe yes or no button, please. Okay, and that is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? I would like to, I did declare a conflict of interest while enclosed due to the nature of my employment at Vandale Construction. Consent agenda, item number 7. If you wish to remove an item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we will not take questions on consent items unless items are requested to be moved to the regular agenda. The items listed on the consent agenda will be dealt with in one motion. Are there any items that you wish to have removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do we have a mover and a seconder to approve the consent agenda items under item 7? Moved by Councillor Erb, seconded by Councillor Craig. Please use your yes or no e-scribe button. Okay, we will now move to the regular agenda. Item 8.1, strategic priority, equitable services and opportunities. I will now call on Craig Dyer, Commissioner of Corporate Services, CFO, to speak to the report. Craig.
Yes, thank you. So the report in question is an information report with respect to the regionally owned property at 134 Frederick Street. We thought it would be helpful to provide council with an overview of next steps and the process we intend to follow with respect to the future use of that building as the relocation of the Waterloo Regional Police Service Central Division is currently underway. And of course, they're moving over to 200 Frederick Street for the most part. That being said, there's a small part of the building that they'll continue to occupy, which includes the backup communications center, as well as some evidence management space. This building had for a long time been assumed to be a future expansion of administrative space for the region in downtown Kitchener. Our current view, based on recent space optimization and corporate accommodation master plan work that we've completed, is that we don't believe that administrative space is going to be needed anywhere in the near to medium term. That being said, interest has been expressed from our Provincial Offences Court Administration Group, and it's potentially a building that could accommodate additional courtroom and administrative space. There's also been some discussion about the potential to redevelop the property to meet our affordable housing needs. And so the process set out both in the highlights section and in the next steps section is that staff will continue to do our internal work to assess the potential future use of those of that building for regional purposes. The intention would be to review those options and evaluate them and bring recommendations back to this council, either in the latter part of 2024 or in the early part of 2025. And with that, happy to answer any questions. And we also have some regional staff who are here who participated, who in fact wrote the report and are here to help answer any questions that council might have.
And we have a few. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in favor of this report. I think it looks like a great opportunity. That being said, though, I have received a lot of advocacy since I've been in office for the creation of an Indigenous hub. And so I'm just wondering about a potential update for that. And if this is not a suitable space, then when will we know about other opportunities?
This is for information only, but I believe Mr. Lochner would like to respond to this one.
Perfect, thank you.
Chair. That's a great question. Going back, probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago, we were approached by a number of Indigenous community leaders about the possibility of using that space. I have to say that when we brought this to the last council, at that time, we thought that space may become available. But as Mr. Dyer's outlined, with recent needs driven by provincial court needs, that's no longer the case. So we've explained that to the Indigenous, some of the Indigenous community leaders. However, I would be remiss if I didn't state that there's I think a pretty strong view that as an act of reconciliation, the region and other municipalities should be looking at providing space for community organizations, not organizations having to come to us. So I want to be transparent and open that conversation and that request has specifically come to the region for this particular space.
Thank you, Councillor Hunick. Councillor Rabinovich. Councillor
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No, okay.
Thanks very much, Chair Harris, and thanks to staff for this report in public session. I do just want to flag that I would request that regional staff have some further dialogue with the City of Kitchener, notwithstanding that there are some potential needs that have been identified that could be accommodated in this space. As has been noted in the report, there was some interest expressed from the city, and I would ask Mr. Lochner to have follow-up dialogue with city staff in that regard.
Okay. Mr. Lochner again to respond.
Yeah, happy to respond. I'm happy to continue those conversations. The clarity, I'm not sure if we need clarity, but our current process is that we look at this for internal regional services, and then secondly for other municipal services if there aren't any regional ones. So both with the opportunity with the City of Kitchener as well as the previous request that I referred to from the Indigenous community, the policy is region first. So we're struggling a little bit and happy to take council direction. I'm happy to meet with Kitchener. We will do that. But again, I think what Mr. Dyer is trying to say is that there's a regional need first. And if we want to deviate from the policy, we would, I believe, need council direction.
Well, again, I don't think, Mr. Lochner, that we're at a point to speak to that. I noticed that this is just here for information, and so I do think that some further dialogue would be helpful and beneficial and of mutual interest. And so I would. I mean, if you need direction for that, that hasn't been the way we've needed to do things in the past in terms of the region dialoguing with area municipalities, and so I would hope that you could have that dialogue.
I see a nodding of heads with that, so I believe that is going to be the case, Councillor Rabinovich. Thank you. Councillor McCain.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Oops, thank you. Through you, Chair. Just wondering if you could just share with us what the approximate value of the land is there, the land and the property on that.
So through the chair, I don't think I have that value handy at this point, but we can certainly pull something together. And I see Mr. Bierstecker walking to the mic, so he may have that information.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. The property value as about 2021 is about $10 million.
Okay, thank you. And I know this is for information only, but I'm curious about like what it would take to actually switch to renovate the existing facility into if it was decided that it was going to be used for courtrooms and that. Like how is it worth the cost of renovation versus the courthouse itself being renovated, the one that's across the street, because it's not terribly old either. So I'm a bit surprised to hear that we're at a courtrooms already, because it's only, 10 or 12 years old. But just, partly what I'm wondering about, and again, I know it's for information, but it's like, what are the costs of renovations to turn it into something else? What's and if we were going to put administrative services in there for the, processing center, is that the place to put it? Because as you said, it's a really valuable piece of land. So if we were going to use it for, processing the amps and that kind of stuff, could that be done at another location? Would it have to be in such a really desirable location in a downtown area?
So through the chair, Councillor McCabe, you've accurately described the conversations we intend to have over the next year or so. Those are some of the factors, the considerations that we'll need to take into account in terms of assessing the most appropriate use for that building, what regional uses may be, may make sense at that location, and to do at least a certain level of costing work to provide the financial implications with respect to renovation costs, future operating costs. That's all part of the work that we intend to do over the next year or so.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. And again, the report won't require any direction today, just a matter of information. But Councillor Foxton, you're up next.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, and to Councillor Heinrich, and all of council, if you're not aware, when I was on TAPMO as the chair of TAPMO, I'd have agencies come to me and say, I can sell you email lists, and we'll send all your messages out through these emails, and they have thousands of them listed on there. Asking for the same thing. So when we get a lot of the Indigenous Hub ones or such like that, if all the wording is exactly the same, those individuals are not emailing you. It's from a company pushing the objective paid for by another organization. So just a heads up to be aware of that all those emails are not from individuals. People are profiting from them. Every time their emails used, they get paid a small percentage. And so it's a profit type thing by an organization hired to do this campaigning.
Councillor Hunek.
Thank you, Chair Harris, for coming back to me. I don't think I completed my former comments properly, and I really appreciate this. And thank you, Councillor Foxton, for your context of that. Even if it's a company emailing us rather than individuals in particular, I do think an Indigenous hub would be of value to our community. And so I'm wondering if it is feasible, appropriate to ask for staff to come back with potential options for where the Indigenous hub could be located in the future. I don't have any timelines around that. I'm looking for your direction / approval, Chair Harris and Bruce.
Okay, I know then Mr. Lochner also would like to perhaps chime in here, or is it just a yes?
It was just a yes.
Does that satisfy Councillor Hunek?
Yes, I think it's going to make the tracking list, but do we need a timeline for that? I don't know.
Perhaps staff can, group together and come back to us with, be it that we are heading into the budget cycle, prioritize your question and staff resources to get back to you on this.
Thank you. If that could be noted, that would be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions for this information report, so I would like to move to our next item of business. 812, the update on former Kinsman Children's Center, 651 Concession Road, Cambridge, and I will also ask Mr. Dyer to speak to this report. Mr. Dyer.
Thank you to the chair, and I will hand this over to Jerry Bierstecker, the region's Director of Facilities and Fleet Management, to walk council through this report.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. The update on the former Kinsman Children's Center, which is located at 651 Concession Drive, will give you a bit of background and then go through the recommendations. 651 Concession was constructed by the region in 2004 and operated as a child care center until September 2021. Since then, it was used as a COVID isolation center and has been most recently used as a homelessness shelter. Regional staff have identified a number of region services and strategic priorities that would be ideal for future use at this site. They are primarily a paramedics station, paramedics deployment station. This is, I would call it overdue. Forecasts show that the need for paramedic services in this area is high, and that a new station needs to be constructed in this area. As well, we're looking at potential uses of affordable housing and other related community services. At this time, staff do not recommend that the property be declared surplus as per the region's disposition bylaw, as additional region uses have been identified. We have taken the time to do a schematic level, high-level concept, which is included in Appendix B of the package. It includes the 3 discussed uses and an estimated capital cost of approximately $35 million. And a regional multi-use site with all 3 of these uses on site would meet numerous strategic plan priorities and capitalize and be the best use of land the region already owns. So the recommendations are that the regional municipality of Waterloo directs staff to explore the concept of redeveloping regionally owned property located at 651 Concession Drive, also known as the former Kinsman Children's Center, with a regional multi-use building, including paramedic services, affordable housing, and potentially other integrated social service offerings, and that they direct staff to apply for any grants and funding opportunities that are available. The next steps on this would be your endorsement of this project with the uses identified, that the region staff would engage with City of Cambridge staff for the suitability of the concept for that location, proceed with applying for study grants, and return to council in 2024 with a detailed redevelopment proposal and updated cost estimate for your approval.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question from Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair, more of a comment. I strongly support this, and obviously in Cambridge we're looking for all those needs to be met, and it would be a very exciting project and an excellent location. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Harris. So I just wanted to clarify, when it says potentially other integrated social service offerings, does this have the potential to be a supportive housing opportunity here?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that that is given particular consideration, because we need supportive housing, especially in Cambridge. Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. For clarity, if this were to be used as a paramedic facility, Would the province cost share the like renovations and things of that nature, like with the 50% cost sharing?
Mr. Dyer?
Through the chair, the short answer is no. The province, the answer is there's a no and. Or but, as you wish. The qualifier to the no is that the province does not provide subsidy directly for capital investment. What they do provide is 50% subsidy on the, let's say, the amortization of that asset. So so if we take, for example, the paramedic services headquarters building up at the Restrec site. When it was constructed, the region was responsible for all the costs. We amortize that property over its useful life, and that expense is funded 50-50 by the province. So we do get money from the province, but it's over the life of the building, not at the time of construction.
Thank you. Thanks. That's really quite interesting. Thank you. My follow-up, a different question, is how accessible is this site, just because I'm not really familiar with it, like for people to get to without needing to use vehicles? Like, are there bike trails, good trails like that? Is it accessible for people using various mobility devices, et cetera? Or is it possible to have a bus transit route out there? Thanks.
I believe Ms. Miller will answer that question. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Through you, Chair, and to you, Councillor. It is on an active bus route. Concession Road is a regional road, so there are sidewalks along or within the right-of-way, but beyond that, in terms of walking trails, the property is immediately adjacent to a school property. So I think there are some surrounding walkways to connect to the school site, but we'd need to do some additional site analysis to improve pedestrian access.
Councillor Liggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is more of a comment as well. I echo Councillor Wolf. I am fully support of this, but I'm not in support of Councillor Deutschman's question with regard to supportive housing. This is right next door to an elementary school. They share the chain link fence, and the playground is also right there. And I know the dangers that can come from some types of supportive housing. So I strongly believe affordable housing is definitely a use here as well as everything else. I'd like the conversations to continue and that we not do that narrow focus of supportive housing, even though I support supportive housing, not at this particular site. I have strong, grave concerns about that.
Councillor Foxon.
Thank you. And to respond to Councillor Liggett, who I usually do not disagree with, supportive housing means a person can afford to rent a house, but not at the prices of today's. So it's 33% of their income for housing is supportive housing. These are not homeless people or anything else. Just wanted to clarify, and you may have known that. Thank you.
So thank you. I will encourage council members to direct questions of the staff recommendation here, but Councillor Erb.
It's more of a comment than a question, so I'll wait until
proceed your
questions are asked.
No, go ahead. Okay, Councillor Shantz.
Just sort of scanning through the report again, because the one appendix in the report has housing as part of the proposition. So wondering if this recommendation is for Appendix B or C specifically, or just in general terms.
Sure, Mr. Dyer has a response.
Yes, thank you to the chair. So I would say it's much more general in nature. So what you see in the appendix is a potential rendering of what this might look like if I think we were quite deliberate in the language in the recommendation, which is directing staff to explore the concept with a number of different potential uses And subject to approval from committee today, we'll go ahead and do that and bring back a recommendation to you next year.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Erb.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I wouldn't want us to preempt the conversation by ruling a specific kind of housing out. Like if we've proved anything in the last 3 or 4 years, it's supportive housing that we need in order to facilitate the people moving from one level of housing to another. And I'm just quickly trying to think, supportive housing, 47 units are going next to KCI High School in downtown Kitchener. We have all sorts of examples of supportive housing. And the beauty of supportive housing is the service provider provides the supports within the building so that we can move these people on to others. So please, let's not get sidetracked with one kind of housing or not, and look where the need is greatest in the community. And in my mind, it is in supportive housing.
Thank you, Councillor Erb. With that, we do have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover and a seconder to approve the recommended motion under item 8.1.2, moved by Councillor Hunick, seconded by Councillor Deutschmann? Please use your yes or no button. Councillor Williams, you're good, thank you. And that is carried. Receipt for information, item 9.1, the council committee tracking lists. Other business, 10.1, Councillor Hunick notice of motion. We now have a motion from Councillor Hunick. Before I call on her to speak to the motion, is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Williams. I would like to now call on Councillor Hunick to speak to the motion. Councillor Hunick.
So I'm not going to read the motion because I can't, but I would like to have the motion put on the screen if possible so that people can see it, and then I have a couple explanatory notes.
Yeah, I'm happy to put that up on the screen, but I will take the liberty, if you don't mind, Councillor Hunick, to read the motion.
Sure. Yes, please.
Whereas the region is facing yet another difficult budget year, and whereas housing, homelessness, drug addiction, and mental health services continue to need additional resources, and whereas all operating departments of the region do not retain any surplus that has been able to be achieved, and whereas the Waterloo Region Police Service in the recent years has been approved to transfer 100% of its surpluses to its own reserve funds, therefore be it resolved that any future surpluses be retained 50% to Waterloo Region Police Service reserve funds and 50% returned to the region. Councillor Hunick.
So just before the discussion that gets rolling, I want to provide a couple of notes of clarification. The first is that this motion deals specifically with the surplus, not the police budget itself. The community that I imagine for myself, for my constituents, for the entire region is one in which the police service has the amount of money they need to do what they need to do. I realize that everyone benefits from the police service, and it's a service that we all need. As we go about discussing this, I want to ask that the media, my fellow council members, and members of the police department refrain from characterizing me as someone who wishes to defund the police, because that is far from what I want to do. What I am suggesting is that the police department continue to collaborate with us and feel supported in requesting the amount of money that they require from year to year. And in the event that they have money left over at the end of each year, that they work with us and give us half of that money back so that we can direct it into related services. Council members can attest to the fact that I'm all about reserves. Reserves for the region, reserves for the police department. I think reserves are required because we never know what's going to happen, but that's not to say that the reserves always have to be to the absolute maximum. And with that, I will turn it over to colleagues to think, discuss, strategize, and ask questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hoynek. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I have requested that we have a legal opinion in regards to the Police Act and whether we're actually allowed to do this.
I will defer to our legal counsel on a response to that question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as always, we're happy to seek opinions if that's council's direction. Certainly on a technical issue like this, that would be something we would seek likely. We probably would look beyond internal resources on an issue like this, I would think.
Follow-up, Chair?
Pardon me?
Follow-up?
Yep, sure.
So based upon that information, would this be deferred so that you can get the legal opinion? Or how would that be handled, the motion?
I think the first step would be to get council's kind of, I guess, consensus on this request. It is somewhat of a larger matter for them staff to go back and get. So perhaps we want to move on that first. If we get that, then, I'm in council's hands, but it would, should you wish to have that information prior to making a decision on this motion, yes. I think that would be a logical step forward. So like last week, I'll give everyone maybe proper time, but would there be consensus on the request of our staff to dig into a response? Maybe just a quick question, how long do we figure that could take?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have an expert on another matter that's just happens to be an expert in police governance, so we can refer to him. He's on retainer, and I imagine we can get this done fairly quickly and be back potentially even before the next council meeting, though that depends entirely on the schedule of our external lawyer that we're going to work with. So I can't say for certain, but if he's available to start right away, I imagine this could be turned around fairly quickly.
Okay. So I'll ask maybe more informally, or do we want to just go right to, request a vote on this? Do you want to, I guess we have to, hang on a second, I'll confer to my trusty colleague here. All right, so I will ask, and I have a few folks online, so I'm going to ask if there's somewhat consensus on this request. A quick no if there isn't would be appropriate now, to direct staff for this legal opinion. And then following that, we would need to vote on a deferral or a motion to defer this. So want to get out there, is there a kind of consensus amongst the council to seek this written response from our staff?
Chair Harris, I'm all for the legal opinion. I think that's necessary and required for due process, but I wouldn't want to cut the discussion here. There's a lot of people already in the queue that I think deserve to speak.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Point of order.
Okay, point of order.
We had a similar, well, I think almost the same issue addressed in February, if I'm February or January, where we received legal advice on this. So I'm not sure that we need a legal advice, or if we just need to cast our minds back to the decision that was made at that time, which I'm not sure that our new lawyer, Graham, is aware of, but...
Through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that the issue was slightly different in the respect of the general budget issue. This is a very specific issue about surpluses and whether or not they're going to factor into the overall authority that the region has under Section 39 of the Police Services Act. So it's a very specific, esoteric question that we're asking, and I think the existing opinion, as I understand it from earlier this year, would not specifically address that issue, and we would need to. This is when I say this can be turned around fairly quickly. This is what I mean. I think we have the foundation for an opinion here on this. We just need to delve into this very specific issue.
Yeah. Further, I'm hearing from staff that we have not had the clarity on that particular ask as of yet. So I'm getting a sense that the request of Councillor Foxton to seek more robust opinion on this is somewhat in agreement. Is everyone in agreement on this?
Point of clarification.
Point of clarification by Chair Redmond.
I realize that motions to defer are not debatable and are on the floor.
Well, the deferral isn't there yet. We're just dealing with the matter of asking legal staff to prepare an opinion.
So I would suggest that any kind of dealing with reserves, and I'm thinking ahead to our budget and our reserves, should not be done in the absence of feedback from staff as to what those implications could be. So I'm in support of a legal opinion on this, but I would also not want this to be done in a vacuum without comment from both the region and from WRPS to find out what the implications of that would be before voting on it. So I don't know if that's friendly or in
I think it could be compassed, frankly, in that request that everyone seems to be somewhat in agreement of. With that, so we've got, I guess that's direction of staff before, we don't need to go to a vote on that we're going to give direction to staff encompassing those items. I think what we'll do is we'll go back to the speakers list, finish that up for questions that may or may not be here. Let
Point of order,
members,
Chair.
okay.
I think if there's a motion to defer on the floor, we should just
There
go
isn't
to that.
one yet. There isn't one yet.
Why are we going to go through this debate? And
Well,
we're going to wait? Because if the opinion comes back that we can't do this, then we've just had this whole debate for naught. So why don't we just leave it to...
So do we have a motion to... Okay, motion to defer, moved by Councillor Foxon, seconded by Councillor Craig. We'll go to...
I think he can get it done by the 18th. I think you were saying that, sir. Graham, can you...
We're going to have to... We're in we're going to need to be in the hands of legal, so Graham's staff, in order to get an idea of when we can get that back. But I believe we have somewhat of a full agenda already on the 18th.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Okay, point of order, Councillor Benefit.
Thanks. Just on the clarification, I believe there's the issue of the legal opinion, but we also heard from the chair about the deferral should also factor in a broader discussion on reserves. So perhaps the date that should be considered should factor both of those in.
I agree.
So there's talk here of November 7th as being the date as to which would give us, the 18th is literally 8 days away. November 7th would provide us perhaps a good amount of time in order to get that.
Chair, just to clarify, is that a committee day? Okay, thank you.
It's a committee day. Staff, including Waterloo Region Police, legal opinion. Graham, I'm seeing a nodding of head. You're cool with that?
Through Mr. Chair, we can't guarantee, but I mean, if for whatever reason we can't, we'll come back with an explanation. But I can't see why that would be an issue.
Okay, so that being said, I've got a motion of deferral on the table from Councillor Fox and seconded by Councillor Craig, and we're going to go right to a vote.
One moment, point of order. Just to clarify, because Councillor Urbanovic and Councillor, sorry if I say that incorrectly, Councillor Redmond. It says legal opinion, but we've also asked for a WRPS opinion and staff opinion on the impact of this motion on reserve. So we should have those items in there too.
Yes, I agree with the Finley amendment. Thank you.
Yeah, give us a minute here to properly give the clerk staff time to put that up. All right. Everybody's nodding heads in agreement? Okay. So with that, we'll go back to the vote. Moved by Councillor Fox and seconded by Councillor Craig. Deferral of this notice of motion to the November 7th committee day. With the timing of the information to come at that point as well.
Exciting.
All right. And that is carried, colleagues. Thank you. That being said, our next Administration and Finance Committee meeting, sorry, Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Just wondering, since we're in good time, if I could ask Mr. Dyer to just discuss a little bit how he works with the police staff on the budget, because there's been so many questions about how the budget's developed and how we communicate together. And so I wonder if it would be appropriate for him to comment on how he and the treasurer of the police services interact.
I will ask Mr. Dyer to respond as best he can now. I mean, we do have a standing now agenda item on the 7th of November to deal with a variety of matters, but perhaps he can give you his best response now.
And if I may, through the chair, so you're looking for a clarification of the process that we go through from a budget preparation perspective? So through the chair, I would say that from a financial, and certainly from a facilities and fleet perspective, there is ongoing discussion between staff at the region and staff at the Waterloo Regional Police Service in terms of how many components of the budget that will really be up to the police to determine how to budget for. But that being said, even for something like the cost of employee benefits, the cost of debt servicing costs, the amount of debt servicing costs and when they'll come on board, a review of the capital program and the timing of certain projects. All of that involves discussion between staff at the region and staff at the police. And I think, as I may have mentioned at last week's meeting, once we have some initial estimates from the police of their upcoming budget, we'll then incorporate those estimates into our overall budget impacts that we present to Budget Committee as we move forward. So I think it's a relationship that I think works well. It's long established, and we'll continue to work as closely as possible with them to align our budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. That being said, again, our next meeting of our Administration and Finance Committee will be on November the 7th. We'll now start a vote to adjourn the meeting. Can I have a mover? Oh, okay. Sorry, Councillor James.
Thank you, through you, Chair Harris. I just want to make a statement, because we are about to embark on a budget process where we as councillors will be bringing forward recommendations, solutions, things for us to discuss. And I want to stress to everybody we can challenge each other with the utmost respect in doing so. We do not need to be having personal attacks at people or language that categorizes people in a certain way, thinking about specifically Councillor Hunick and having to, say and state that she's not for defund the police. I think when we start to attack people and make assumptions about who they are, who they may be aligned with, it becomes very dangerous territory. And as we go through this process, I think, all of us around this table do this for community. What we suggest is not about attacking anybody or any group personally. And I want us to remember that, because the way we speak to each other, it is a direct reflection on how we see others in this community. So just wanted to say that, because we will be putting forward some things that we may have differences of opinions on. And I would hate for this process to turn into personal attacks when the intentions and the impacts are for good of this community. Thank you.
So we will now start a vote to adjourn the meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Wolf, seconded by Councillor Hunick. Please vote yes or no, please. And that's carried. Good afternoon, everybody.